The horizon looked ordinary. The sea was doing what the sea often does, a steady blue, a slow shimmer under an open sky. Then someone in a dim, fluorescent-lit room said 3 words that made every head in the Combat Information Center snap upright. A contact is altering course. A warship turning toward you at speed is not an accidental gesture. It is, by definition, a decision made by someone else's captain. And decisions have consequences. A Chinese destroyer changed its vector and was heading straight for a US destroyer on lawful passage. The distance between 2 steel hulls closed faster than anyone had time to breathe. In minutes, intent became the only thing that mattered. The first thing to understand is how small the margin was. Warship geometry is brutal and unforgiving. A few degrees of heading, a handful of knots of speed, and you're suddenly within a handful of yards of someone else's bow. That's where the math became frightening. The radar tracks showed acceleration, then a jump in speed. The approach wasn't casual. It wasn't a patrol. It was an intercept profile. A vector cut straight at one ship's starboard bow. If you're sitting at the ship's bridge, it all feels very narrow. Voices clipped, instruments ticking, a checklist that moves from observation to action. The sea room that looks vast from a distance shrinks at cruise speed. The questions are immediate and raw. Who is piloting that ship? Are they trying to intimidate, to test, or to force a mistake? Will they talk? Or will they opt for silence? Silence is rarely innocent at sea. Bridge-to-bridge hails went out, first in English, then in Mandarin. Silence back. The silence itself became the message. In naval terms, not answering is not confusion. It's defiance. It's a test. Can the other side be pushed into a reaction that looks like the worst kind of error? The American destroyer did what trained crews do: track, log, and posture without provoking. Every system did its job. Fire control recorded heading and bearing. Radar frames were frozen and time-stamped. Voice logs were running. The ship's 5-inch gun slewed just enough to be visible. Not a loaded threat, but a deliberate movement intended to be read. We see you. We're prepared. Now imagine this chess game played at 30 knots, where decisions unfold in seconds, and the only score that matters is whether anyone blinks first. The Chinese destroyer's speed rose. The contact vector kept compressing the closest point of approach. There was no room for sloppy judgment calls. Then the next deliberate escalation arrived from the US side. A helicopter lifted from the flight deck and took station overhead. Not an offensive move, but a strategic one. The Seahawk climbed and put its sensors on the other ship, streaming high-resolution imagery back to the destroyer. That camera angle, geotagged, time-stamped in 4K, is today's equivalent of a legal brief. It's evidence. It's deterrence. It says, if this ends badly, we will have the proof. What happens when 2 navies trade posture like this? You don't get gunfire or flashbangs. You get layers. Radio checks, on-scene optics, electronic suite signatures, and, crucially, recorded proof. One side tries to create ambiguity that can be repackaged into a narrative. The other side counters by creating a transparent record that puts that ambiguity to rest. So the standoff plays out. Sensors track. Officers call the angles, and a decision matrix lights on the screens. The options are embarrassingly stark. Push forward and risk collision. Slow and allow the vector. Alter course and admit a boundary. Each choice has strategic consequences. The ship that flinches sets a precedent. The ship that holds the line risks an accident. Both outcomes have political weight that ripples far beyond the moment. Yet this strategic restraint is not without danger. Repeated tests increase the odds that one of them will go wrong. A rain-slicked deck, an instrument error, a human misread. All can flip a provocation into a real accident. When steel meets steel at combat distance, consequences are fast and irreversible. And while everyone aboard wants to avoid that, the reality is that repeated close passes make accidents statistically more likely. So what is the broader play here? Look at the pattern. Shadowing patrols, forcing aircraft to alter course, cutting across another ship's track. The objective isn't simple hostility. It's normalization. Try it enough, and the new baseline becomes more dangerous, more close, more ambiguous, more contested. It erodes deterrence slowly, without a shot fired. This tactic plays well on multiple fronts. For the state using it, it signals resolve to domestic audiences and potential partners. It sends a message to other navies. We can challenge you near your operations if we choose. For the defender, the imperative is legal clarity and calm professionalism. Maintain evidence, hold course inside the law, and rely on the diplomatic and informational processes that follow. The safe play is to avoid creating mismatched narratives that could be exploited, and there are precedents. Similar maneuvers have been documented elsewhere. Close cuts, sudden intercepts, jets buzzing patrol aircraft, or warships making aggressive turns. Each episode adds to an archive of norms being tested and sometimes reset. That archive is now public and visible, and that visibility means the stakes are not purely tactical. They are diplomatic and informational. At the human level, the crew on both ships feel it. For sailors on the deck, the minutes stretch like hours. Discipline is tested by silence and proximity. The watch officer clocks every ping, every bearing change. The sensor operator tags images for posterity. Quiet professionalism replaces adrenaline with procedure, because procedure is what keeps everyone alive and preserves the truth of what happened. After the encounter, the careful compilation of radar frames, timestamps, and high-resolution imagery becomes part of a broader narrative. If there is a formal diplomatic protest, it will be supported by this record. If international bodies are asked to weigh in, the account will be privileged by the evidence. The new reality of maritime confrontation is that the camera and the logbook are as crucial as the gun. But there's a strategic question here that lingers after the tension subsides. How should democracies respond to persistent grey zone coercion? Is the smarter path to escalate deterrence to blunt the tests, or to deliberately absorb and document the pressure until the diplomatic costs of that pressure become unbearable for the challenger? There's no single answer. Escalation can deter, but also risks accidents. Restraint preserves stability, but can invite more tests. The calculus must weigh domestic politics, alliance cohesion, legal frameworks, and the long-term cost of normalizing close-in pressure. One thing is clear from the encounter. Both sides understand these dynamics. They are playing to audiences beyond the sea surface. Capitals, treaty partners, and homefront viewers. Each maneuver is a signal layered with meaning. Sometimes the aim is to extract concessions. Sometimes it's to shape public perception. Sometimes it's simply to find the margin of reaction. The good news is that the tools for measured defense exist. Rigorous rules of engagement, robust ISR that produces legal quality records, carefully trained crews who can hold their nerve, and diplomatic channels that can translate tactical events into political consequences. Those tools must be used intelligently and consistently to blunt the effectiveness of grey zone pressure. So when you strip this down from the heat of the bridge to the level where policy is made, the incident reads like a test. A test of rules, a test of discipline, a test of the international appetite for risk. The ship that holds its line and documents the contact preserves the option space for a political response. The ship that reacts rashly hands the challenger the narrative. That is the calculus of modern naval diplomacy. Hold lawfully, document relentlessly, and let the facts do the heavy lifting. Now the question for observers and for policymakers is stark. When these tests increase in number and intensity, what do we choose to protect? Do we prioritize preventing the next provocative maneuver by stepping up deterrence? Or do we prioritize preventing miscalculation by doubling down on restraint and evidence gathering? Both paths carry risk. Both paths demand clear intent and unity of purpose. The incident at sea was resolved without shots fired, but it was not a win in any simple sense. The answer will shape how the next close pass ends, and whether the next one can be contained before it turns into real conflict.